John in Canada, welcome to the program.
I wanted to talk about transubstantiation,
Okay.
and I do believe that when I'm receiving Holy Communion, I do believe it is the body and blood of Jesus Christ. However, I have been watching, now that I'm at home a lot, I've been watching the masses at home on TV,
Okay. That's good.
and I noticed that the priest or the bishop or the pope, when they're making the sign of the cross over the species, it's done so differently. Each person has each priest have their own way of making the sign of the cross. Now, exactly at what point does it change from the bread and wine to the body and blood of Jesus?
Well, it is a continuous action that includes the different elements of the consecration of the bread and consecration of the wine. So rather than think of it as separate consecrations, think of it as one liturgical action. And with regard to the bread, the transubstantiation takes place as the priest says the words of consecration, "This is my body, which will be given up for you." So he says the words of institution, the words that Christ said at the Last Supper. And this is why when that part of the consecration is finished, the priest elevates the host so that the people can adore Christ present now under the appearance of bread and wine. Then you see the words of consecration spoken by the priest over the chalice of wine. And when he speaks those words with the proper intention, then that's when the transubstantiation occurs with the precious blood. And that's when he elevates the chalice so that the faithful can adore the Lord in the precious blood. So the reason for the elevation, in fact, which goes back to, I think it really began to emerge in Paris by about the 1100s. I think it was ordered by the Archbishop of Paris so that the people would know when the transubstantiation had taken place. So that's where this custom of elevating the host, so people could see it, began. So that's when it happens. Does that answer your question?
Well, it does, thank you. But it spurs on a little bit more, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
I have a physical disability, and I have been praying ever since I've been a young man, that God will take away this disability from me. And I always heard and read in the Bible, it says, whatever you ask in my name, it shall be done, provided it is in the will of my Father.
Right.
Speaking of Jesus, talking about his Father. Right. And I say to myself, if the priest and the laity, the people, us, can believe that what you just told me, it changes, transubstantiation takes place. Why can't I believe, or why can't we believe that if a priest pray for me, that I can't be changed from a non-disability person to an able-bodied person? It boggles my mind,
Yeah.
In other words, it's the same. In my mind, it's the same concept. We are believing that transubstantiation does take place. So why can't it take place when I ask for, I go to a healing mass or so, and they put oils on me and pray over me and all that. Why doesn't it happen? I'm curious.
I understand. Well, and that's entirely reasonable. It doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. The fact that it hasn't happened means, I would interpret that to mean that it's not in God's will that it would happen. So if you're praying earnestly for this, for healing, for the transformation of your body and the elimination of the malady, and it hasn't happened, then I would interpret that to mean that God is saying either, no, I have something better for you, I have something different for you, or yes, but not yet. So keeping in mind that the miracle of transubstantiation is different from what you're describing. Transubstantiation, as you probably know, means that the reality of the bread and the wine cease to exist, and yet the outward appearances remain. So the taste and texture and all the other things that go along with the physical attributes of the bread and the wine, those remain. But now the reality, the substance, has been replaced by the reality of Jesus Christ, glorified and resurrected, body, blood, soul, and divinity. So that's a different phenomenon from what you're asking for. You're asking not for transubstantiation to take place, but for healing to take place. It doesn't mean that the reality of you would be changed into some other reality. That would be transubstantiation.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I would say the fact that it happens at Mass for the bread and the wine is not in some way, it doesn't mean that therefore when you or I pray for healing, that because something incredible is happening on the altar, therefore something like that should happen to me, because they're two different phenomena. So it doesn't mean, however, that God can't do that. He certainly can do that. And here's, I'm going to share a passage with you that you might find helpful. This is from 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7 and forward. St. Paul says, "And to keep me from being too elated by the abundance of revelations, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me, to keep me from being too elated. 3 times I besought the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." So St. Paul says, "I will all the more gladly boast of my weakness, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weakness, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong." And I see some meaning there for you, in that you experience the weakness of the physical disability that you have, and God has not decided to free you from that just yet. So perhaps if you meditate on this passage, you can think about how, for whatever his reasons are, he's permitting you to remain in this weakness, and he's saying to you, just like he said to St. Paul, my grace is sufficient for you. And as difficult as it may be, I know it's easier said than done, perhaps embracing that message and saying, all right, Lord, your grace is sufficient for me, and I'm going to wait on your timing. And if it's your will that I be healed from this, I look forward to the day, and please hasten that day. But if it's not your will that I be healed from this, then glory to you, and I'm going to rest content in knowing that you've given me grace that's enough for me. That's how I would try to approach it. What do you think?
I appreciate it, but you know what I've been doing, and you hit on it a little bit with the quotation there, and from Corinthians. I'm now saying to Jesus, to God, I prefer to do my purgatory here on earth than but when you do call me, that I will forego purgatory, and I will see your beautiful face when that time comes.
Right.
So I'm just doing that. I don't know whether I'm correct or
I think it is.
To him. Yeah.
Well, trusting in God is easier said than done, and I'm the king of people who, it's easy to say it, but it's a different thing to be able to do it. But it's still true, and it is purifying, isn't it? Because it helps you. You can expiate a great deal of the temporal effects due to sin in this life, maybe all of them, by patiently dealing with and offering up to the Lord those big and small crosses that we're asked to carry, and lovingly, patiently, just offering that to the Lord. There's tremendous purifying power in that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. I pray for your healing as God wills it, and I'm so glad you're listening. Please tell your friends in Canada about the program.
For more of The Patrick Madrid Show, visit relevantradio.com/Patrick.